Hi friends, welcome back to my channel. I'm so glad that you are here today because we are going to be talking comfort movies. And if you are anything like me, you are a serial comfort movie watcher. I really do love watching new movies, but there's just something about my absolute favorite. When I crave familiarity, when I'm a little sad, I always kind of go back to those same movies over and over and over. But I'm like super aware that everyone's like idea of a comfort film can be completely different. But to me, comfort movies hit kind of like three criteria. Number one is that they're usually nostalgic. Either the characters themselves are nostalgic, or the storyline is nostalgic, or I just have very specific memories tied to when I watched those movies, like maybe when I was a kid. Two, they usually have like a feel-good storyline or some kind of happy ending. They don't need to be like absolutely perfect ending, but I don't come away from it absolutely heartbroken. La La Land, I'm talking to you. And number three, I feel like is kind of tied to number two, but they just make me feel. Like I feel like each scene is so intentional and I find myself absolutely immersed in the storyline, immersed in the characters' lives to the point I am feeling what they are feeling. I think a really good movie should do that anyways, but my comfort movies always kind of like whisk me away to a new time and place, even if I've seen it a million times over. But before we get into everything, I just want to say a quick hi, I'm Kay. Over on my TikTok and on my Instagram, I share all about cozy living and gentle routines and just kind of little things to make life feel a little bit softer. And I feel like comfort movies are just a huge part of that for me. So let's get into like my absolute ultimate favorite cozy movies. Number one is The Parent Trap, and this might just be one of my absolute favorite movies of all time overall, like just nothing compares to it. This movie is about twins who grow up separately, but they meet up at a summer camp and then decide to try to get their parents back together. The one I'm talking about is the one with Lindsay Lohan. There was like an original one I know from like a long time ago. I remember watching this movie a lot growing up and my dad would always be like, you haven't even seen the original. You don't even know. But the Lindsay Lohan version is just the one that I knew so well. It's the one that my sister and I would quote like day in and day out. That was like the movie we would just put on as a family all the time. It definitely brings me comfort because it's so tied to memories with my family for sure. But also the storyline is just so like sweet and funny and heartwarming. I also think though that the stakes are just so low because overall everything's going to turn out okay no matter what. And you just get to watch kind of like a nice feel-good family movie. Also as a kid, I was absolutely floored that Lindsay Lohan played both of the twins. I remember just asking my parents all the time, like, how do they do that? Like, that is so crazy. There's also something to be said about the fact that this movie almost feels like three separate movies because there are basically like three distinct settings throughout the movie. And so as a kid, I would put on the movie and I'd watch maybe like just the camp scenes from the beginning, or I would just watch the end, or I would just watch when the parents are like getting set up. Also, it's just so quotable. There are so many inside jokes that my sister and I have that originated with The Parent Trap. Number two is Howl's Moving Castle. This is a Studio Ghibli movie about a girl named Sophie who is cursed by a witch and basically transforms into like an old woman. She goes on this journey, she meets this wizard named Howl. Howl has this moving magical house, hence the name. Him and his friends and Sophie overcome their different curses and they strive to bring peace to their land. One of the reasons I love this movie so much is because it's so much more than meets the eye. Like, yes, there's romance, yes, there's magic, but there's also found family and almost like a warning against unnecessary conflict and war. Miyazaki does such a good job in all of his movies at weaving in so many different themes that kind of just come together and tell such a beautiful and full story. And this one might be just my favorite of all his movies. Number three is Letters to Juliet. This movie is about a girl named Sophie who is a fact checker, but she really wants to be a writer. She and her fiance decide to do a little pre-honeymoon in Verona, but while they're there, he ends up being really busy with work. So she discovers this wall where basically heartbroken women from all over the world come and they write letters to Shakespeare's Juliet. And she ends up finding a letter from like, I want to say it was 1957, and she decides to respond to that letter. Now, the person who wrote that letter is now an elderly woman, but she ends up receiving the letter and ends up going to Italy to find her long lost love. It is such a nice romance in the sense that it is sweet, it is soft, it is gentle. There are definitely moments that are really funny as well, but overall the entire vibe of the movie is just light. I think that's the best way to put it. While it definitely has very like cheesy romance elements, because it just never really made me feel like that cringed out or anything. This movie was my go-to sleepover movie though. I had it on DVD and I would bring it to every single sleepover and I would try to convince every single person like, we have to watch this movie. So pretty much all of my friends growing up knew Letters to Juliet and had watched it at least 3 or 4 times because I always brought it. Number 4 is Flow. My friend convinced me to watch this movie. She was so sure that I was going to love this movie and she was so right. Flow is an animated movie about a cat and some other animals as they try to survive a flood. You don't get a lot of context outside of that, but you really don't need it to enjoy the movie. But the craziest thing about this movie is there is no dialogue in it, like whatsoever. So the emotion and the feelings are carried through by just like 1, beautiful animation, 2, just incredibly immersive music and amazing sound design. I think I'm a sucker for animal movies in general, but the way that they created the characters in this was so simple. The animals are just so themselves. They're acting like how a cat would act, how a dog would act, how a monkey would act. And they can't really communicate super well, but they all work together while staying true to who they are. I feel like I entered like a flow state while I was explaining that, and so it might not make any sense. In which case, just go and watch the movie. You will not regret it. But it is such a rich and beautiful movie from start to finish. And then lastly is Christopher Robin. I was always a Winnie the Pooh fan as a kid, so when Christopher Robin came out, I was so excited to watch it. In Christopher Robin, Christopher is all grown up and he's got a family and he's an incredibly busy, important businessman, and he is visited by Winnie the Pooh who needs help to find his friends. I remember when this movie came out, I went with some friends who I think were expecting it to be a kid's movie and they were a little bit disappointed. I really liked it though because I felt like it was talking to adults. It was talking to us. It was talking about growing up, forgetting things from your childhood, forgetting to find that joy and that wonder that you have as a kid, and how bleak life can really be if you're not looking for joy and you're not letting yourself have joy. So this movie is always a reminder to me to just enjoy the things that I love, to take time for the people in my life, to know that work is really not the end all be all. I think it just has really good themes that hit really well for adults. So anyways, those are my absolute top 5 favorite comfort movies of all time. Literally movies I could watch every single day if I had to, and I would never get tired of. But I would love to hear what your favorite comfort movies are because I know that everyone has such a different idea of what a comfort movie is. So let me know what yours are in the comments below, and I will see you on the next video. Bye!